Hello everybody, this is Kirusho here. Now then, whenever we last left off, Inko, she had just helped out Uraka, and got her some medical treatment. Now, she would have let Uraka go after giving her a bandage, saying that she should at least keep this covered and if she needs new ones to come back to her. As she would have let Uraka go. Watching as Izuku actually does stop her and ask her if she's okay. These two would begin to talk for a minute as Elizabeth is just realizing exactly how much this boy appreciates that girl. Well, she'll keep a note of that. Now, that being said, she would immediately just start by asking the pros if they would like to be treated for their injuries, as she treats All Might first. She would have found out about All Might's injury in the process after asking him to take off his shirt, where he would have done so and she would have seen this large hole. Now, she would have thought that he would be easy pickings right now, but she can't blow her cover. So she would help All Might by giving him some bandages and actually helping him out. She would have asked Endeavor, but Endeavor, he would have just shrugged it off, as he's not injured. He's not that weak. And Mount Lady would have actually accepted the offer. Now, Inko, she is getting ready, as she would fill up a vial with something. And she immediately tells Mount Lady that she is going to need her to, not drink this, but she's going to have to inject this into her blood. What is that, doctor? Oh, don't worry, young lady, this is just morphine. It will at least dull the pain while I do perform some stitches. As she would just inject into her arm, Mount Lady immediately gets dizzy, as she is having alarm bells ring in her head. What? Are you sure that was morphine? As she would immediately just hit the ground. Elizabeth is smirking, as she locks the door and immediately just gets Mount Lady sat up. She would morph her hand into a claw as she immediately stabs it into her arm and begins the process. She converts Mount Lady into into one of the Blacklight viruses, or the evolved. She would have done so as Mount Lady. She would wake up about an hour later with her stitches actually healed. But one small problem. She does find that she can't use her quirk. She starts to begin to ask questions as she's thinking about things. In fact, there's more information in her head than she thought. What is going on? As Elizabeth would just step out of the shadow. She would immediately bring her hands up as she tries to turn on her quirk for a second, immediately stopping herself as she realizes she's inside. As her hand begins to mutate. She's asking exactly what the hell are you and where's the doctor? Oh, you see, Mount Lady, I simply took her away. Although, I will admit, you having a dormant strain of the virus is unique. Dormant? What are you talking about? Well, you see, humans, or people with quirks as you call them, you carry a genetic marker. The virus has latched onto some of you, finding it to be a bit more harder to shake off. It's like your quirk gene, as you call them. It can lie dormant, but it can rapidly burst open at any time. As Mount Lady looks down at her hands, she would actually have a small row of tendrils burst out of one. As she would immediately go to scream, Elizabeth immediately just extending her arm out, covering Mount Lady's mouth, saying that she's not going to say a word about this. If she does, the heroes will kill her. Then they'll try and come after me. Besides, I've been around for 200 years. It's not going to be that easy. I'm not. What the hell are you? Well, sweetheart, I'm something new. Probably the end or the beginning of something. The end of man in the age of anything. The age of coming together. Now, go out there and just act like yourself, sweetheart. If otherwise, I will make you turn inside out, killing everyone around you. You can't do that, can you? Sweetheart, the things I'm capable of could give your nightmares. Now please, as she actually just have a creepy grin form across her face, act natural. As Mount Lady walks outside, she would just explain that everything was okay and she had to be put under she had to have morphine for her stitches. She was just hanging out inside and actually talking with the doctor more. She found out a lot about her. A lot. Now, Deku, he would be walking back inside his house as Mountly would turn her eyes seeing this, realizing that that boy, he might be just like her. So she would pull him aside. But before she could even open her mouth to speak, Elizabeth would open the door, looking like Inko, asking Yuzuki if he is ready for lunch. Deku, he would go inside as he gets lunch, and he would go to hang out with Ochako. However, she's inside just reading a book and actually having a bit of food. And her dad would just say that she came home not feeling very well, so the doctor just said for her to get some rest. In fact, she had to get one of those tinnitus shots, so it will be a couple days. Now, as that's being said, later that night, there is one thing happening. Inko would make food and set it down for Deku. Deku, he would eat his food and then he would go to bed, as Inko is telling him that he will be fine for the night, giving him a kiss on the cheek and telling him to get some rest. As she begins to wait outside the door, she begins to try and figure out exactly what she's going to do. Using her hunter vision, she's been able to tell that he carries no version of the strain. So converting him will have to be a bit more violent, but she can probably pull it off. If he's able to stay asleep during this, then that gives her the edge. Now, Mountain Lady has stuck around the settlement, so I want to say she'd at least stay in a different house, or at least close by. So, as Inko does one simple thing, Deku is in a deep sleep as he wakes up to one feeling. It's an odd one. He feels a needle poking into his side, but he's not paying any mind to it. He's just somewhat shaking it off, thinking that it's just, a bug. It's not usually that bad, but he's at least shaking it off and trying to get it away. As his pain grows greatly, he immediately feels it as he would turn his head, seeing Elizabeth in this state. He would immediately go to scream as she immediately brings her hand up, covering his mouth, saying, "Shh, shh, it'll all be over soon, sweetheart. It's nothing to be afraid of. I'm just making you a bit better. It'll be all better soon. You don't need to fear me." In fact, as she would just turn into Inko saying, "Mommy is here for you," as Deku passes out. He immediately wakes up screaming this next morning as he does remember the events, as Inko would immediately run in and ask him if he's okay. Deku would just say that he'll be fine, it's just, he had a nightmare. Sweetheart, you're sweating. Yeah, no, don't worry about it, it's nothing. It's nothing. As Deku is trying to calm himself down. Now, Inko would say that she is going to go on a supply run, so he should be fine. Are you sure you don't want me to come with you, Mom? No, don't worry, sweetheart. Besides, I have to go into the red zone. Mommy, you shouldn't be going in there alone. No, sweetheart, it's going to be okay. The heroes are actually trying to get rid of the monsters in there. In fact, I heard that they took down 3 of the behemoths. Do you know anything about that? Somewhat. Oh, do you care explaining? No. It's perfectly alright. Now, after that happens, Deku, he just would ask Ochako if she's feeling okay. He visits her as she would just say she'll be fine, but sadly she won't be able to come out today. She's been a bit under the weather. She got a cold after drinking she got a cold and then trying to help out and make sure everything runs around here was a bit more difficult. So it was a bit harder to deal with. Now, as that's happening, Deku, he would get dressed as he puts on his shoes and he tapes down his pants, doing so with his shirt and doing so around his wrist, as he slips on another jacket and then his backpack. Alrighty, sorry about that, guys. My sister interrupted me. Then I saw that someone actually messaged me on Discord. So, let me get back to it. Deku, he had just taped down his gear, then he slipped on his backpack. Now, he would actually bring up his hood, as he actually does tighten and, he does pull the strings on it and actually tie the knot, as he begins to take off running. He exits the settlement as he actually does climb up the ladder in the alley, directly outside the door, or entrance, as you can call it. Now, as soon as he does that, he immediately begins to run on the rooftops. He's thinking that if his mom's going out for medical supplies, he should at least try and find something. In fact, he doesn't remember exactly what day it was, but he's pretty sure Ochako's birthday is coming up. He can probably find her something she would like, but it would be a bit difficult. As he's trying to think more on this. Now, as he is out, this is whenever one thing is happening. He actually hasn't been realizing it, but he's been running a bit faster. In fact, he's actually running on the rooftops, and he's actually looking down at his feet, finding that every time he takes a step, his feet are actually going further down, and he would finally look up, finding that he's at the edge of the building that he was at once again. Now, he immediately just tries to stop himself, but he just jumps up into the air. As he does so, he would immediately land on the other side of the building, throwing himself over this gap and landing on his feet, as he immediately just smashes into a wall and immediately hits the ground. Now, as soon as that happens, he's immediately laying there in pain for a second as he does his stand up. He turns around and immediately sees that, wait, I barely made that last time, but 1, 2, 3. As he realizes he just went 7 steps over the edge, where he barely made it. So how did he just do that? Now, as he's thinking about this, one simple thing would happen. He would finally go to a store that seems like it may still have something in it. So he begins to walk around. As he's doing so, he would find that he accidentally walked into a den, or a hive. Now, there is a hunter here in Deku he didn't realize there was, until one thing happened. He grabs something off the shelf and knocks something over, as it would fall, breaking. He picked up a snow globe, and one of the ones next to it fell over. Now, before he can even realize it, he would have heard the hunter running down, if not breaking through the walls, and trying to find the source of the noise. Deku would have saw it as he would immediately begin to run away. As he would have done so, he would have run into an alley, where he immediately just pulls out a knife and slices a wire, as a lot of shrapnel and raw steel would come falling down and immediately land on the hunter. Deku is watching as it's trying to get out and actually trying to break free, but the amount of rubble they just threw on it, because of the traps they set up in their spots near the red zone, they were useful. Now, Deku, he sees that it's in pain, it's hurting, it's ready. As he feels an urge come above him, he immediately holds out his hand as it begins to swirl around and turn a bit red. Him immediately freaking out, pulling it away. As he brings his hand closer, actually just putting it onto the hunter's head. as he just feels something happen. He just watches as this hunter, it's getting consumed by him, the tendrils in his body. He immediately feels himself get stronger and more durable. He just watches as this thing disappears from beneath the rubble, and he immediately just drops to the ground, as he would just somewhat scream out in victory, as he just feels pain in his arms, immediately getting out of breath and falling backwards onto the ground. As he immediately just tries getting his hands underneath him, as soon as he does so, he would see one simple thing. A pair of claws in his hands. Now, he immediately backs away and actually does just look at these, as he's just running his fingers together. They're scraping together back and forth like they're actual metal, like they're actual knives. Now, as soon as that would have happened, he's just standing there looking at this, as one person would appear and make their presence known to him. Elizabeth Green. She would have done one simple thing. As Deku would look up, seeing that Elizabeth Green is standing on the building above him. He would have immediately looked at her and frozen, as he would turn to run, jumping over the rubble and actually cutting and scraping his leg, as he begins to run away. He would realize that the cut is healing as he's taken off. He's running away and he just keeps going and going and going. These things are not disappearing. So, what is that? Now, before he immediately runs onto the main road where he knows heroes and people will be, he just thinks about it. No, if people see him like this, that's not going to be good. So he immediately starts running down another alley, as Elizabeth Green would corner him. Immediately just taking off, not taking off the mask and everything, but just talking to him. As she would just say that it's unique. It's funny to meet another evolved, but I feel like I've seen you. Young child, who are you? Please show me your face. As Deku, he just pulls his hoodie down more. He's scared at this point. He's not sure even what to do. Now, Elizabeth would do one thing, as she forms her own set of claws, saying that these are nothing to be worried about. No. What is this? Oh, dearie me. Do you have no idea what this is? This is a quirk. Well, you can call it that, but I prefer another term for it. You have the Blacklight Virus. No. Wait, you mean what all those infected have? Oh, no. They have a different strain. We're a bit more streamlined. As she would just throw off all of her armor, showing Deku her actual face. Deku sees this lady as she has a full head of hair, and actually looks familiar. He just asks her exactly who she is. She would just say that she is no one. But you're going to need to learn how to control that, as she would immediately walk over, putting her hands up to Deku's, saying that these claws are a bit more of a tricky thing. Here, as she would immediately just hold out her hand, showing Deku a memory. Deku, he's immediately just seizing and convulsing as he is watching this. He's watching every single thing Elizabeth has done with the claws, seeing that she's not only able to retract them and control these abilities, but exactly how she uses them. As Deku has seen her tear off the top of a tank and immediately throw it, which Deku remembers, as he would immediately fall backwards, immediately just throwing his hands behind him, trying to scurry away. He would scurry into the corner as he would just hold his hands outward. Elizabeth saying that, well, I thought teaching you would be a bit more easy. I remember you now. All those years ago, when my mother tried helping me. We were flying through the air and all I remember is seeing you throw one of those things and killing those men. You are a villain. Oh, young man, I'm no villain. I'm just something the system wants to blame. You call that hero society part of the government. And the government. But what happens when the government throws you away? Doesn't want you to see their mistakes, so they decide to blame it on someone else. In fact, it's one of the reasons why I lost my child. You had a son? I don't know exactly what they were. I don't know if their gender, their name, their eye color, even what their birthmark looks like. It's all things I've vaguely remember seeing through hallucinations and morphine. So, I want to train you. If you've awakened this ability, then that means you need to control it, along with your hunger. My hunger? What are you talking about? Well, young man, your hunger is going to be a bit difficult. If you don't consume enough biomass, you will start losing your mind. No, you can't be telling me the truth. Well, actually, yes, I am. Besides, here, as she would immediately show Deku that you need to just stay calm and take a breath in, take a breath out as her hands had turned back to normal. Deku staring at this with just somewhat trying doing the same. As he just starts calming down, and one of his hands turned back, as he's just staring at the other one. What am I? Honey, you're infected with the Blacklight Virus. Now, change back. As Deku would successfully turn his hand back to normal. Immediately just staring at us, asking how exactly does that work? Don't worry about it. Now, just go back home. But before you do, as Deku he immediately turns around to pick up his backpack, she would just chop him on the neck and hide him in one of the nearby buildings, locking the door behind her and barricading it. As she immediately turns back into Inko and walks back into the settlement with a bag she left nearby. Now, as she does that, Deku would eventually wake up and he would find that he's in a house. He would go to open the door as he immediately just pulls it off its hinges, ripping it off, as he's just holding it. He just sighs and just drops it down and immediately just pushes the furniture out of the way, as he would arrive back home. Now, Mount Lady would just see him as she would just start asking questions as, where has he been and why has he been out for so long? Sorry, I kinda got lost exploring. I was looking for something for my friend. Oh. Well, you better go talk to your mother then. She must be worried. As Mount Lady is trying to figure this all out. If that lady's in her head, then she has to be careful. She's basically got me on a tight leash, so I shouldn't try making any drastic moves until I get out of her sight. Even then, she might just keep monitoring me. Now, as Deku would arrive back home, Inko would just be worried as she just says that he's been gone for a while. She got back before him. And she would just start scolding him, as she knows exactly what happened. Just giving him a hug and saying that she's at least glad that he's okay. Dinner is ready and it's already on the counter, as she would just walk outside, going to treat one of the other victims from a recent event they had. Now, what I mean by event is, they were still sending people out to look for food and other various supplies. They actually did need a new replacement part for their water system, since it's been acting up. So she would have at least need to trick people who are sick. Now, with that being said, Deku, he would just walk over to Choco's house, and he would just tell her that he's a bit sorry, but he doesn't remember when her birthday is, so to be a good friend, he tried finding her one of these, as he would pull out a snow globe. She would just be in shock as she would just say that it's been forever since she saw one of these. My dad used to have one. Yeah, I remember hearing you talk about it before. Thank you. As she would just give him a peck on the cheek and close the door. Deku immediately just freaking out for a second. Now, with that being said, he would go home and he would actually barricade himself in his room, as he's just gorging himself on the food his mother prepared him, as it tastes a bit different. Now, with that, Inko in the next room, she would be hearing this as she was actually smiling, hearing Deku transform his hands, which intrigued her a bit more. She immediately turns on her hunter's senses. She immediately just stands up, looking at the wall, seeing that Deku, he's actually just standing there in front of what she thinks, from looking at Inko's memories, as a mirror. As Deku, he's actually in his room, staring at his hands, just looking down at these, running his fingers along his arms, finding that this doesn't hurt. It's just odd. What the hell did that lady do to me? Did she even do this to me? Was it something I ate? Was it something I drank? That nightmare. That nightmare. Why can't I remember it? Why do I just remember that pain? Was that it? Did this happen to me in my sleep, or is this my quirk? No, that lady said that she calls this the virus. I need to find out more about this. But as Deku would immediately go rummaging through his bag more, he would immediately just find one single note. This address, this time. Be there, or, well, find out what it's like to go hungry. Now, Deku, he's immediately just, well, taken aback by this. It was real. That lady was real, which scared him a bit more, as he would immediately walk into the bathroom, throwing the note in the toilet, flushing it down, as Inko would check on him, asking him if he's okay. He would just say that he's fine, he just had a bit too much water, and he couldn't sleep. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed the video, and have an amazing day. I'll catch you guys in the next part.